All right, well, if you're watching this video, that means you have finished working on questions 5 through 17 from page 393 and 394. And now we're going to go over those answers. Okay, so here are your answers to 5 and 6. For number 5, we could have written out that time as 9:15. We could have written it digitally or written out the words. Or we could say 9:15. Number 6, you could have written out with words 10:45. You could have also said 11:15. You could have also drawn the analog clock. I just didn't have enough room on my whiteboard, but if you did draw the analog clock, your hour hand would probably be between the 10 and 11, probably a little bit closer to the 11, just because it's almost 11 o'clock, but not yet past it. And then your minute hand would be at the 9, because we know 45 divided by 5 equals 9. So the minute hand would be pointing towards 9 if you drew the analog clock. All right, now let's go ahead and go over 7 and 8. So here are your answers for 7 and 8. So for number 7, you could have written it digitally, 3:45. You could have written it out with words, 3:45. Or you could have said 4:15, because if we added 15 more minutes, which in a clock is a quarter, it would bring us to 4 o'clock. So we could say 4:15. Now for number 8, the clock is showing 5:30, which you can write digitally or out with words. Or we could say 5:30, because we know when the minute hand is at the 6, it represents 30 minutes, which is half of 60, which is an entire clock, so that is half. So it's 5:30. Okay, moving on to 9 and 10. All right, number 9, digitally would be 12:15. And if you wrote that out, you could use the words 12 and 15. And we can also say 12:15 or 12:15, because again, 15 represents quarters of a clock, and it is 15 past the 12. So we could say 12:15 or 12:15. And number 10, you could have written that time out using words 3:45. We could have also said 15 till 4. I'm so sorry, 4:15, because we know quarter in a clock represents 15. And if I added 15 minutes to that 45, it would bring me to 4 o'clock. So we can say 4:15. And you could have also drawn an analog clock like we talked about before. I just didn't have enough room. And if you did that, your hour hand would be between the 3 and the 4, but a little bit closer to the 4, because it's almost 4 o'clock, but not yet. And then your minute hand would be pointing towards the 9, because we know 9 on a clock represents 45 minutes. Moving on to the problem-solving section of your work. All right, let's look at number 11. It says the clocks below show the time that the Flying Horse Carousel in Rhode Island opens and closes. What time does the carousel open? What time does it close? So if you look at the opens clock, you will see that it is showing you 11 o'clock. The minute hand is exactly at the 12, so we know that means o'clock. And then for that, we just look right where the hour is pointing, which is at the 11. But more specifically, it is 11 o'clock a.m. Okay, 11 o'clock in the morning. And we're going to talk about that after we talk about the closing time. So the Flying Horse Carousel in Rhode Island opens at 11 o'clock and closes at 9 o'clock p.m. So if we're going to go to a park, are we going to go at 11 o'clock in the morning where it's nice and sunny? Or are we going to go at 11 o'clock when it's starting to almost be midnight and close? Yeah, we would be more likely to go when it's nice and bright so we can actually see where we're going, see all the fun. So it would open at 11 a.m. and then close at 9 p.m. because it wouldn't make sense to open at 11 a.m. and then close at 9 a.m. That's not how it works. All right, so I know you know the difference between a.m. and p.m. And that's going to bring us to question 12. And it says, Mr. Boyd gave his students a math test at 10:45. Explain why this time is most likely an a.m. time. Now, if Miss Heston was giving you a test, or Miss Brown, or Miss Thomas, or Miss Rose, or myself, or Miss White, would we be giving you a test at 10:45 p.m. when you should be in bed sleeping? No, we would not do that. We're not even in school then, and I promise you we will not go to your house and knock on your door and give you a test. Okay, it would be a.m. because that's showing during the daytime, and that is a time that we would be in school. And I promise you that Mr. Boyd's students would probably be at school the same time you would be at school as well. Oh shoot, I messed up this video. Okay, now we're going to go over our next section, which is 13 through 16, where you had to use the table at the right to find your answers. All right, number 13, we needed to use estimation, and it says whose bowling score was about 20 points less than Beth's. And we know about also means to estimate or guess or using rounding. So Beth's score was 78. So we're trying to find one that was about 20 points less. So exactly 20 points less would be 58. Now, did somebody score almost 58 points? Yeah, Rusty scored 59 points, which is about 20 less than Beth's score of 78. All right, looking at question 14, it says whose bowling score was 15 points more than Cal's? So we have to look at Cal's exact bowling score, which was 63, and add 15. So 63 plus 15. First, we add our ones, which would be 3 and 5, and 3 plus 5 is 8. So we know our score in the ones place will be the digit 8. And then if I add my tens, I add 1 plus 5, 1 10 plus 6 tens will give us 7 tens. So whose score had 7 tens and 8 ones? You're right, it was Beth. So Beth had 15 more points than Cal. All right, now looking at 15, it says, what is the order of the friends' names from greatest to least score? So greatest is the biggest number and least is the smallest number. So would I look at the ones or would I look at the tens to start with that? Yeah, I'm going to look at the tens first, and then if they're the same amount of tens, then I'll look at the ones. So looking at the tens, we have 6 tens, 7 tens, 5 tens, and 8 tens. So Peng has 8 tens in his score of 82. So your order should have started with Peng. He had the most, the greatest score. Then the next amount of tens would be 7 tens, which would be Beth. So it goes Peng, then Beth, then 6 tens, which would be Cal. And then the least score, the lowest one, was Rusty. So again, in order, from greatest to least, should be Peng, Beth, Cal, and Rusty. All right, the last problem from this section, we were using algebra, which we use all the time. You just don't realize that's what it is. So it says, write a number sentence that compares the total of Cal and Beth's scores with the total of Rusty and Peng's scores. So first we had to find out what would be the total of Cal and Beth's score. So if you added 78 and 63, you should have gotten 141 points. So Beth and Cal have a total of 141 points. Now I need to find the total of Rusty and Peng's score. So Rusty and Peng Rusty scored 59 and Peng scored 82. And if we add those two numbers together, we get 141. So now we're comparing 141 with 141. And they are, make an equal sign, they're equal. So you could have written out 141 with the equal sign and 141. You could have also written a sentence, Cal and Beth scored an equal amount as Rusty and Peng. But it does say write a number sentence. So we know that Cal scored 63 points, and we add it to Beth's, which was 78. And that equals, so now I have an equal sign, Rusty's score, which was 59, plus Peng's score, which was 82. So I'll show you that. So this would be a number sentence. So I just wrote out all the scores. We talked about this is Cal and Beth. added together equals Rusty and Pangs scored together. So this is what your number sentence should look like. All right, we have our last question, number 17, and it says, Ronaldo delivers a newspaper to the Hong family between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. each day. Which clock shows a time between 7 a.m. and 8 o'clock a.m.? So if we look at option A, the time shown there is 7:45. And 7:45 does come between 7 and 8. All right, option B is showing us 8:15. That's past the time. It can't be B. Looking at C, it is showing 6:45. I know it looks like 7:45, but remember what we talked about with the 45, it's got to hook back. It's not yet been the 7, so it can't be C. And then D is showing us 2:35. So I accidentally, when looking at it first, switched them up, and I was like, there's 2 answers. But it's not. I accidentally switched them up, which is okay. I did go back, though, and look over my answers just to be sure, and that's when I noticed that I had made a mistake. So D shows 2:35, and that cannot be between 7 and 8. So your answer should have been A, that shows 7:45, which is between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. All right. Well, if you need to go back and rewatch this video to review some more answers because maybe I went too fast, that's completely fine. We want you to understand why each answer is the way it is. And if you have further questions, don't be afraid to email your teacher or comment below and ask your question. That's completely fine. We can help you. But I had a lot of fun making these telling time videos. And the next videos that I'll be making will be about elapsed time, which is really exciting. And I can't wait to start those videos.